Welcome to Milk and Mummies podcast. This podcast was created simply because I found myself happily pregnant and self-employed and wondering, how was I going to juggle it all? Get comfy as we talk all things motherhood, working for yourself and finding that elusive balance, honestly. Oh, hello Kim.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good.
Yeah.
Yes. Chaotic morning.
Yeah. Talk me through the chaos of the morning.
Just, we've got a very theatrical 4.5-year-old. Loves singing and dancing.
Love that.
Just noise, constant noise.
Yeah.
Singing her heart out.
Love
and I
it.
love it. But it's tricky at times to get her ready and out the door, ready for school. And then, Beth, bless her soul, nearly 3, next week. And, I know, bless her, time just gone. But emotions are high for her at the moment, just really striving that independence and wanting to do everything herself.
Yeah, and
not really sure what she wants.
But
wants your help, but doesn't want your help.
Yep.
Needs your help, but doesn't want your help. Can't do it, but wants to do it. Yeah, it's just empowering that sense of control for her, and whilst trying to usher everyone out the door.
There you go. I was going to ask, how's your patience in that space? This is also really good learning for me. So you're definitely giving advice into what's to come.
It gets pushed to its limits at times.
Yeah.
I mean, I try and hold on to that notion that if I lose my patience, it just makes it worse. It really does. And Rob, Fridays are his day, so he was kind of more at the forefront, and I could hear him getting more and more stressed and worked up because there's trains to catch, there's things to be on time for, but you just got to try and meet them with where they're at and calm yourself before you put on your life jacket before you put on theirs.
That's what they say. Okay, words to live by and things to put into practice. That's what I'm kind of like soaking up right now in this moment. So guys, I am here with the wonderful Kim Rose. If you've been watching my stories, I gave a little insight as to who she is and what she does. But Kim, tell us, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Kim. I am known as Kim Rose Photography, Rose being my middle name. 36, mother of 2. My photography work centres around the journey of motherhood, starting in matrescence and capturing women with their babes in utero and then onwards and wherever that journey takes them. And it's not what I used to do pre-children. It's far away.
I don't know if I've actually ever asked you that. So I met Kim through a mutual friend who had her photo shoot done, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi,
And through Rebecca, I saw your work on her page. I saw the pictures. I got in touch with you that way. And again, I've just been in your business ever since, really, just liking stuff, following stuff, liking stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever asking you what you did before.
So I trained as a social worker. I went into university when I was, I think, 18, tipping into 19.
Yeah.
And I did my social work degree. I stayed in social work from coming out of uni straight into work. Yeah. And I was a manager in adult social care for local government before I left. So working predominantly with adults, older people, with learning disability, physical disability, dementia, predominantly focusing on optimizing quality of life and independence. And it was my life. It was what I did for, I don't know, 13 years, maybe 14 years. And I was completely dedicated to the profession. It was my life and soul, really, before the children came along.
Wow. Anyone who is in social care, social services, that space of work, I'm just like, I'm shaking my head at the moment. I don't think I ever have the words, the patience, the dedication, the empathy, the compassion that you need to have to be in that space consistently and show up every single day for the people that you work with, look after, assist. I don't even know where the capacity for that level of empathy or care comes from, because for me it's almost like I know that I wouldn't be good in that space at all, because I think I will see something and I'm going to want to do something in my way or as quickly as possible, but I know that there are protocols and systems that you need to follow, and there may be more to a story or to a case, and so your personal thoughts and feelings have to be put aside, and I can't ever see myself separating my personal feelings and things from there. So I just know that I'd be ruined every day. I know I couldn't do it.
I mean, we were the team that I was a manager of before I left.
Yeah.
We were, you know, for the most part working with people in real points of crisis, and you have to, you know, meet people where they're at and navigate that journey alongside them with the knowledge and understanding that you have of the resources that are available, you know, the eligibility and all that jazz. But ultimately you're working with people in such kind of crucial parts of their life, and you know, places that they perhaps never thought they'd reach, some people in real dire straits. And you know, when COVID hit, the lockdowns, the implications on the hospitals and resources, it really changed the face of our social care and NHS. And it was a hard decision to make, to step out of the profession. You know, it's my team and my colleagues, the people that I worked with, it was a little family, and to step out of that was really hard.
So did you make that change, I guess, round about COVID?
It was after Beth.
Okay.
Yeah, so Chloe was born in 2019.
Yep.
COVID hit when she was like 9 months. And I always knew we'd have 2 children, and I always knew we'd have 2 girls.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, how comes?
I don't know. I just had a feeling.
Yeah.
I just felt it was going to be 2 girls.
Okay.
Even though Beth, like, we never found out with Beth. We waited until she was born. Because she was so heavy, I thought, oh, she's a boy. I was carrying very differently to Chloe. And yeah, you know, Chloe was 9 months, and then COVID hit. The world stopped, and for us it was actually, I know COVID was a really, really difficult time for so many, and people, you know, lost loved ones, and we lost loved ones in very sad circumstances. But for us as a family, it meant, and for me as a mother, it changed my experience completely of being a mother. And it was like, you know, with Rob being at home, working from home in the loft, it was just amazing. Like, come down and have lunch with us, spend time with Chloe, see her, you know, at points in the day, and to just watch her growing and learning. And we always say, like, that was just the best time for us, because we could shut the world, you know, the world had stopped. There was nothing to do. Yeah. And we were in a little bubble in our garden, couldn't go anywhere. Yeah. And then we fell pregnant again. Because, you know, what else
got busy, you know, just a bit more family time.
Yeah. I think I was pregnant when Chloe turned 1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was that was how Beth came about.
And I mean, what you said echoes quite a few people who either fell pregnant or had a little one going into lockdown. Just as much as that was such it was a crazy, difficult, surreal, horrible time for some, it still managed to have moments of beauty and light for others, and even for everyone, I guess, in moments where they were able to focus a bit more on themselves or family. And even you just mentioning Rob there, I guess even as a dad, he was able to witness things that he may not have had the time to, because of work or whatever other responsibilities he would have had in an everyday sort of setting.
Before that, he was leaving the house at 7 and back, you know, as I'm putting her to bed.
Yeah.
And it was heartbreaking. Or he'd maybe get like a little snippet of half an hour before bedtime. And it was really hard for him because he just never really felt like he was forming the bond that I was. And the mother-baby bond is so primal. And, you know, it's within our nature. It's just how we're built to be a strong bond with our mothers. But, he really struggled at times with just not having that time with her. Yeah. And, and COVID, like, we got two very different experiences of it. We had that beautiful time as a family, and then when I was heavily pregnant with Beth, the COVID it ramped up and it got worse, and you know, maternity units were shutting down, and I had to shield for I think 4 months of my pregnancy.
Oh wow, okay.
From so it would have been like end of October. Yeah. I was kind of given the advice to start shielding. Yeah. And Beth was born on the 10th of February. Okay. So I pretty much stayed in that.
Wow, yeah.
Which is kind of how the photography came about. Yeah. To sort of keep my sanity, really. Capturing my pregnancy.
Okay, so it started off with just, as you just said, just capturing your pregnancy. Yeah. Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I was kind of dabbling with photography before that. Like as a hobby, I would take my old Pentax ME, which was a film from a film camera from my dad that captured all of our memories as a family. So he'd had it for like 35 years when he passed it to me.
Yeah, was photography just always part of you, or as you just said, your family, your home?
Yeah, my dad was very much that way inclined, documenting us as a family when we were small. And then my parents separated, but he very much like held on to, you know, all those precious memories and moments that were in pictures, and he still had that camera, so he gave it to me. And when Rob and I were traveling pre-children, it was always like, you know, pictures of our travels. Yeah. I loved like landscape, portrait, plants. I just love photographing.
Yeah,
plants.
do you? Why?
I don't know. I'm such a plant person. Like my happy day is literally in a garden centre, or you know, like love I'm such an old woman. But I love just going to botanical gardens and just spending that time in those spaces and just slowing down and noticing. I think that's what photography allows you to do, slow down and notice. So and I remember, you know, photographing all our different trips and our family, you know, like my sisters and my brother, kind of carrying that on a little bit. Nice. I think when Mum passed, it was very much like I had this, you know, kind of niggling, we must capture. And I've tried to let go of that a little bit.
That pressure of making sure you...
Because it pissed them all off. Oh, for God's sake, show the fucking camera out again. Just like Christmases and birthdays and stuff. I would always bring it along. And I loved developing, like, you can't beat film for film camera. You just can't. And then just from there, really. So that was like over the space of kind of 10 years. It was very much us as a family. And then people started to ask me to photograph them.
How did, was that more of a friends were starting to ask you? Or? Yeah. Okay, cool.
So friends that started to have their babies or weddings. I was predominantly doing weddings here and there, just not really, just word of mouth. Like, I hate social media. Like, I don't.
Do you?
Yeah, I hate it with a passion.
Why?
It just sucks so much energy from me. I know I could be doing it so much better.
Okay.
But I think for me, I don't get me wrong, I love it in a very different way now. I have a different, but back then, yeah, I just really struggled with it. I still do now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to love it more.
Yeah.
Because of the people that it's brought into my life.
I get
like
you.
yourself.
Yeah. Phew.
But
no, but I get it. It's a strange beast. I think people, if you utilize it for, say, work purposes, or if it's a private account and you're using it to capture and document things so that family and friends can connect and see, I see how people kind of have better feelings or better relationships with it. But I think I see the love-hate where people can kind of end up just being stuck on it and just watching other lives and making the comparisons and kind of falling into that space. And I can see how horrible and just cloying and stuff that can be. And then I see those who kind of dip in and out of it, knowing it's just entertainment to an extent, and then that's it. So it definitely is very divisive, and it definitely has different meanings and different things to people. So no judgments at all. If you hate it, you hate it. If you love it, you love it. No problem.
Just touching on that as well, like with my photography, and I say this, we do Mother's Circle circles with a local birth worker, and I often touch on this in our Mother's Circle, that I'm very mindful that the photos that I take of motherhood can look oh so dreamy and oh so beautiful and wonderful.
They do.
And I am very mindful that I don't ever want someone to look at my imagery and go, well, I don't feel that way in mothering, or my life with children doesn't look like that. Nobody's lives do.
Yeah.
I'm just really, really good at my job.
Yeah. You are. And I think that you also do capture those wonderful light moments. Do you know what I mean?
Because I want them for mothers. Yeah. And I want them for their children.
Exactly.
But it's so I also share as much as I possibly can in the shadows of motherhood. The darkness, there's light and there is dark. And I had a maternity session last year with Anushka, who's an author and a space holder in women's circles, an amazing woman, and we did a session that kind of really captured that, and it happened so organically. We started in the back of our garden, underneath an apple tree, when the golden light was flowing and it was beautiful. And then we took it to a woodland near her home, and at that point the sun had gone down. She'd changed into something that was much darker, and we were just really sharing and reflecting on the pendulum of emotions that come with motherhood, and the light and the shadows. And her session was amazing because it encompassed all of that, and it's creating a safe space for women to share that. But you don't always get that from looking at an image on Instagram.
It's true. The one thing I always say is that I think people always need to remember what it takes to put an image up on social media. We all do the same thing, no matter who you are. We take about 50 to 100 images, try and whittle it down to 20, go back and forth over the final 5, then pick the one that we're going to post, agonize over that, and then we post it. So if that's what I do, and I know that's what Jane down the road does, and that's what Sarah down the road does, and that's what Adra down the road does, then we all know what the process is. So it's like, this is as much as you can, or as best as you can, just take it for what it is. Yes, we're showing all these wonderful things and these wonderful places, but we know what goes into it. We know the truth of it all. So
family life is motherhood is messy. It's all messy.
But I'm learning that every single day. And even like looking at, say, mum influencers who specifically work in the space of, I guess, documenting and showing things in a more staged thing. Obviously, they're trying to show or showcase a product. I don't even know how they do that. I can't even imagine how many images you had to take to get the final one where you and, say, your 2 kids or 4 kids were looking at the camera at the right time, or in the position that it is. So any of the influencers who are more a bit like, yo, this is what it is. Yeah. I think that that resonates so much more because we know what it is. The amount of times I've done laundry and the laundry is never ending. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Or the fact that I've cleaned, but my house does not look clean, and I'm still clean. Do you mean like that's the truth of it all?
Nobody's
right?
house with children in it.
Oh my
looks
days.
clean.
So it's like, I think as long as people just don't forget that, don't forget we're all the same. We all do the exact same thing. So we know what's true and what's not, you know? Just take it as light entertainment as and when, and then just try not to get stuck on your phone too much, because again, you're missing the world.
Yeah,
that
100%.
But like, how, in terms of, obviously, yes, you have your 2 girls. Yes, you're running your business as well. I'm trying to think, because you started your business while you had your little one. I was about to ask you, how did you find the shift of being a business owner and being
I still don't see myself as a business owner.
Okay.
Like, it's really hard. I very much see my clients as my friends, and whilst business has gone so incredibly well, like beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah. Which is awesome. That's so amazing to hear.
Yeah, like I still don't see myself as a business owner, even though I did my self-assessment 2 days ago. Thank you very much. Paid my bills.
Yeah, we made it. Tax period anyway.
But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The juggle is incredibly hard. Like, I made a lot of sacrifices, and I chose to make those.
Yeah.
Because the alternative for me just was not an option. Like, to go back to my job, which I loved, but the nature of the job was such that it didn't really support me as a mother, mothering 2 small children
in the way you'd want to.
Yeah, and without any support from, we don't have grandparents really that can support us in the childcare element of the children. And also I wanted to, I wanted to be the one there picking them up from a day at a childminder's or nursery, but also I didn't want to miss out on those years, and I didn't really want them to go anywhere until it was time for nursery.
Yeah, I get that.
So that being like school hours and school terms, I was very much of the understanding that it wasn't going to be an option when I went back to work.
Yeah.
And the nature of the job that I did as well, before the children, I was probably working, 60-ish hours a week, all hours of the day.
Yeah.
And it was still not enough, and it was extremely, extremely stressful.
I was going to say, like, bringing that
high
home
pressure.
As well.
Yeah. And I felt actually at peace with that. I'd given that service all that I could at that time. Like, I felt ready to step out now. I never ever wanted to become, because I'd reached management, the next step for me was going to be senior management. And I never wanted to reach that point burnt out with no love for the profession and just questioning my life decisions, really. So yeah, the Rob and I made a decision to kind of use that time on maternity. Well, it happened so organically. It was never really planned. Like, whilst I was doing my self-portraits in lockdowns of me and Beth in utero, I mean, my belly was so round and prominent, and I could barely walk by the end.
Oh,
like,
really?
She was 11 pounds, so yeah, it was.
And that was a natural birth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was at home in the kitchen.
Oh, gorge. Okay.
Which was really, because of the lockdowns as well. We were very much like, and Chloe, let's try and keep this as settled as we can. So yeah, she was at home in the kitchen on a February morning whilst it was snowing outside.
That's super
lovely.
picturesque.
It's so
lovely.
Nice.
It's so funny.
Nice.
I've gone from low-key clenching my vagina at 11 pounds to like, oh no, that sounds so picturesque.
Her birth was
and snowy.
easier than Chloe's.
Yeah. Amazing. See,
yeah. If ever, you can't call birth easy. Birth is like the hardest work we will ever do as women.
Couldn't agree more.
Oh, takes you to the stars and back down.
Yeah, it does.
I just still I just am in awe at any woman that births their baby in any way, shape or form. You know, we are all warriors, and it's all valid. Like, it's all a birth, and I really, you know, I find it really hard when I see mothers beating themselves up about the birth that they had and how that impacts their journey. You know, and it don't even get me started on the birth. The birth world at the moment, you know. Jess, my doula friend, and I have lots of conversations about maternity services and how we're failing women, but it's so set up for, you know, it's male dominant and it's masculine led. It's not there to accommodate women and their needs, and it's not really open to the possibilities of physiological birth. And I feel really, the conversations that I have with mothers time and time again, of that feeling of guilt, whether that's around birth or feeding or connection or their bodies, like postpartum, and the impact that has on them, because there just isn't the support around us to birth in the way that we want to, feed in the way that we want to, and it's that support and empowerment and that knowledge and information. We're digressing, I know.
We're not at all, because I mean, like, I want to hear it all. So whether we do everything in this particular episode or you come back again and we talk about that in another episode, I'm completely here for it.
I'm just so passionate about it, because you know, the conversations and the way in which I see it affects mothers and how they feel within themselves or their connection with their children. It has such a profound impact. And I don't even know where our conversation began just then. Around birth, that's right. So I just feel so strongly that when I started this business, that it was very clear that the needs of mothers was at the forefront of what I do. It's not just about, you know, pretty pictures with your children. We all want that, and I want that for the mothers that come to me. But I want you to feel like understood, seen, valued, listened to, beautiful. And I want you to, you know, it's such an experience, one that you'll remember forever, and it's such an important part of your life where you're at right now. I meet women, you know, that have just given birth days before I step in their front door, or they're perhaps 6 months down the line, possibly coming out the fog of, you know, the intensity of that time. And so when when it started to become looking like it was going to be a business, I went real deeply into what did I want that to look like. And I'm really I think sometimes we're all guilty at losing sight of why we're doing what we're doing and what we started out with in our mind's eye. And I just keep bringing that back in as I, you know, continue on the journey. But it just unraveled from my self-portraits with Beth. And then when the lockdowns lifted and pregnant women could have their pictures taken in the woods and meadows, and the asks started coming, and people started reaching out to say, you know, would you do this for me, and could you capture me in pregnancy? I haven't been able to celebrate it at all because of the lockdowns. So it was wonderful. That's how it started. And I think Beth was 2 weeks old when I went out to my first shoot. I stood on the driveway crying.
Oh, did you?
Feeling guilty. She was asleep on Rob's chest. I'd just given her a really good boob. The woods was five minutes down the road, so I wasn't far at all. And I remember standing on the driveway, like, just feeling really guilty. But
I'm trying to think. I think my first job back was, I think Zena was maybe about 2, 3 weeks, I think. And it was a voiceover job, heading to a studio. Max has her, absolutely fine. I didn't leave feeling guilty or anything like that. I don't think I've experienced mother's guilt in abundance, what a strange way to put it. It's definitely popped up here and there for sure. But I left knowing, nope, she's good and understanding. Don't forget, this is what we knew life would be like. The baby's at home, you're going to work, and you know, you work for X amount of hours. So it all kind of made sense logically. But I missed her so much. I didn't anticipate that happening and the intensity of it. Oh my goodness. And Max was amazing. He sent me pictures and things as I was there recording, and if I needed to call and stuff, I could. But when I came back and I just had her back in my arms, I was like, oh my gosh, I'd missed you. A huge part of me was just elsewhere. That was crazy. So I remember that feeling and that moment so vividly, and just like, wow, how am I going to do this? So when I came home, I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to leave her again and go to work? I don't know if I can do this. So that happened. I know you said, you touched on something earlier, and you were talking about the sacrifices that you had made. Do you want to delve into those a little bit?
Well, just, leaving my 2-week-old baby.
Okay.
Just for, it's only an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Still.
But that time, to really kind of shut the world out and enjoy that newborn bubble they're just so sacred, those days. But equally, I knew for me, because personally I really struggle with the baby stage.
Okay. As in, what does that mean?
Just like I really struggled with when Chloe was a baby, just kind of navigating, the cues, the breastfeeding. With Beth, it did feel a lot easier, but I really, really loved that kind of 6-8 month mark. I felt more at ease,
Got you.
like in myself, our connection, and just generally knowing what to expect.
I get it. No, it's funny because I remember having a similar conversation to Max, and not that I had this moment of like, okay, the baby's here now. Okay, she's with us. And it's true. It's like, as much as I've grown up around kids, my friends have kids, blah, 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 whatever. I was like, no, this one's yours. Yeah. And this one's with you from, she's physically out now and she's now with you, period. So it was like, there was definitely a sense of, me saying, what do I do isn't quite accurate, but it also covers it a bit as well. Just like, okay, so what do we do? And like, obviously, and like, what I loved watching her. I mean, I still do, like a little weirdo. I'm very proud of that fact. It's fine. I'm watching her all the time, and she's sleeping, and she's breathing, and she's smiling in her sleep, and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is really, really just down to you. Yeah. Yes, your partner's there, and yes, he's there. He helps as a dad, whatever else. No, but this is really down to you,
and it's for life.
So I was like, okay, so what do we do? So there was definitely like a weird little element of that, even though I felt I know what I'm doing. Yeah. Don't I? Yeah, of course I do. So it's just such a weird, the fog is the best way to describe it. Yeah. It's a weird fog that you're fumbling around in. Yeah. Completely comfortable in, and then also not at all. Yeah. It's just weird.
With Chloe, it was like, I felt so determined to kind of get back into society. Like I was I think that's because I felt an awful lot of pressure to do that.
Okay, you felt a lot of pressure to do that.
To just, get back into society. Yeah. Like, don't become a hermit, locked away in a house with a baby. And like this kind of pressure on women to just step out the door with their babe in a sling a couple of days after giving birth. Like, we had so much pressure from people in our lives wanting to get around to hold that baby, and all that. I just wouldn't even tolerate it with Beth. Like, it had such a negative impact on, Chloe, Rob and I at such a raw point in our journey as new parents and a new baby. And then the second, that baby was couple of months old, it was like life just went on for everybody else, and the visiting stops, and the husband goes back to work, and then the baby all of a sudden wakes up and realizes like I'm gonna fuck shit up basically. Like feeding was great with Chloe initially. We had a tough couple of days, you know, when your milk comes in and you're so sore and you're sweating and you're bleeding and you can't sit down and everything is just raw and aching and people want to get through your front door and they want you to host them and make them a cup of tea and fuck off. Like, my tits, like this. Oh my god, everything was just so raw and so sore, and we were trying to latch and we were trying to feed and we were trying to be settled, and you get so much pressure from the outside world, and our society is so strange around new babies arriving. It's like everyone's got a right to see that baby right away and hold them. Who's holding the mother?
You've reminded me. Oh gosh, I kind of do remember that stage, but I think I've also put it way back into the echelons of my mind. But yeah, I remember that. I think for me, culturally, so my family originate from Ghana. Culturally, let me not get this wrong as well. Oh, pressure. 7 days. Once the baby's born, I think you have 7 days where it's at home. And no, you don't see anyone, no one sees you, whatever else. So I think on the 7th day, it's like an outdooring. That's when I guess the elder in your family comes with you or takes the baby and introduces the baby to the family, to the world, to the heavens, etc. So I think over here, I knew that I wanted to have a minimum of 7 days. Me and my baby, me and my partner. That is it. Period. Didn't want to see anybody else. And it was really funny because I didn't actually have to say anything like that to my friends and to my family. Everyone just almost naturally had this thing of, they stopped kind of asking, is the baby here? Is the baby here? Because I know we can get like that. And I remember being like that with my own friends. So it was also very interesting going through it and like, oh yeah, Rach, that was
you
actually
gain
quite
a new
annoying.
respect.
You do. You really do. So it kind of naturally petered off where people stopped asking if the baby's coming. And they're like, when the baby's here, she'll tell us. So we'll just leave it at that. And then I think my nearest and dearest and those who know me and know what my vibe was like, they didn't even ask to, when are they seeing the baby? They left me alone. And I think from after a couple of weeks, that's when people started to like, whenever you're ready, shout me and we'll be down. And that was the most that they did. And that was great. And I know that I tend to do the same thing for people as well. I'm like, let me at least give you 2 weeks alone. And at the end of the day, when you open your doors, you're going to say. But I definitely do recall those who were like, yeah, but okay, when can we see her? When can we see her? And I was like,
they have a right.
That was interesting to navigate that space, because it was a case of like, I hear you, I'll let you know. And I had to be so firm, or as firm as I could be with that. And so although I wanted to have a minimum of 7 days, I ended up having 6 days. And I do feel like I acquiesced a bit. I wish I'd actually kind of like stuck my guns back. I said 7 days. And I hadn't even reached 6 months, whatever, in the whole pregnancy stage, but I knew I'd said these things out loud already. So I was a bit annoyed that I had reneged on certain stuff. And should we have this process again, I know where I am 100% sticking to my guns, and I'm not even going to be apologetic about it. So I think I definitely had a space of navigating that, setting boundaries, knowing that you might rub certain people's noses out of joints, standing in that space of strength and truth as well, that this is what I want to do. And I think there was a bit of a learning curve there. I think like I said, I reneged on certain places, but I would never do that again, because the way that I felt afterwards, because I did that, me saying yes to things that I didn't want to say yes to, and it only happened a few times, but how I felt, I was like, I'm never feeling like that again. Never again. So it is true, the pressure that you can get and people's rights. Well, I want to see her. Okay. Doesn't mean I'm going to say yes to, or you can come over. It's that pressure can... It's amazing how intense that felt. Just reminded me of that. I forgot.
And it does often come from a place of, excitement and joy. But I think our society, there is not enough spoken about of what a woman goes through when she gives birth, for one, and two, how sacred in the terms of connection, bond, feeding, establishing a relationship, routine, nurturing of the parents and the baby.
Yep.
How important that is, and how, you know, some mothers that I have had I've been honoured to meet in their journey postpartum, you know, I'm so privileged to come in and capture that time for them, because they've actually got a very clear, strong, nobody's coming through the front door until 2 or 3 weeks time. And you know, some of my clients, they take the 40 days of postpartum, you know, that kind of 4th trimester is so vital to their well-being. If you don't nourish the mother, then you know, that can have an impact on the baby and that bond with the baby. And that's so something that, like, I've learned so much about when I had Beth, and I'm still learning. And you know, through the women that I meet, the mothers, the birth workers, doulas, food doulas, wonderful woman on Instagram that I've come to know about called Kate. She's known as the food doula.
What is that about? I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Nourishing mothers. It's a service that you can, and a lot of the birth workers and doulas in my local area offer it as well as a service. Okay. But Kate specifically focuses on the nourishment of mothers through food. And I just think there's so much, you know, resources out there that we don't know about, mothers don't know about. It's not shared, it's not talked about in terms of that journey afterwards, because it comes from a place of excitement and joy. This is wonderful new life that's arrived into our family. But just what you were saying, Rachel, when you said, you know, when you did agree to those things, the impact or how you felt. I really, really had a lot of that with Chloe. And it's I do feel in some ways it's a shame that women and mothers aren't empowered more with their wishes. It's like you feel guilty that they're gonna see you as an unkind person, or you're being rude, or you're shutting them out, or you're not including. But actually, let's just strip it back and go, this is a person that's just gone through the biggest, you know, transition, the biggest hormonal shift in their body. They've just brought a new human into the world. They've not slept for 4 days or 5 days, whatever. Like, let's just, you know, really think about that rather than you want to hold a fucking baby. Anyway, you can tell. It's a huge, and so for me, when I step into these homes of new parents, I'm very mindful that they are exactly that. They are newborn parents. So I go with a view of nurturing and nourishing them, as well as capturing really, really precious memories for them.
That's gorgeous. Now, that's such a great ethos to have at the center of your work. And as you said, no matter what you're doing work-wise, you always kind of remind yourself as to why you're doing this, what you're doing this for. And I think that's such a great way just to make sure your business, your company, your vibe, your aura just stands in the truth and the authenticity of what it is that you're trying to build. That's so key. And it definitely shines through your work. Well, like 100%.
I'm just sitting here thinking, did I actually answer your question? I'm like, did I answer what you asked me?
You did. I can't remember where it started.
I think it was the juggle of business and motherhood.
And also the sacrifices. But you know what it is? I just, like, everything with this podcast, I try my best, even though I know I do. I try my best not to interrupt the flow of thought, because you're speaking your truth, and you've been reminded of something or triggered with something, and you're sharing that. And I know how helpful it is for others to hear it. Even in that conversation, you reminded me of some stuff that, not that I'd actually forgotten about, but I know I just put it to the back of my mind. Do you mean? It was like, I hadn't actually voiced that in a while, or if at all. So I try not to interrupt the flow of where it's going. Whether or not you answer the question is neither here nor there.
But the juggle is hard. Let's leave it at that.
The juggle is hard. That's it. No, I mean, no. Like I said, I'm here for the truth of all things motherhood and the journeys and being a creative and managing that space, be
Yeah.
it the work or relationships with your partner, your family, relationships with your child or children. So there's just so much to be learned from the truth. And as much as, for instance, with me, I knew that I was going to be a mum. I didn't understand maybe the mechanics of it all or the logistics of it all, but I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah.
Fine. How much though I have learnt in terms of the amount of research I had to do or the amount of conversations I had to do to speak and understand what it meant to fall pregnant. Okay, now you're pregnant, what that looks like and what you're going to go through, and some of the symptoms, changes that I didn't even know would happen, navigating that space, being able to advocate for the type of birth that I wanted to have, any pushback I received on that, me understanding I can push back if I need to, navigating that space with my partner, then having the baby. A lot of, throughout those whole steps and those processes, I've had a lot of learning and a lot of research has come about. So if there's any way in which these conversations can make things a little bit easier for the next mother or the next person who's trying to have a child or start a family, then I feel like I've done, quote unquote, my job in this. So I'm here for the conversations and the sharing of knowledge, because as you said, there's so much, and I agree with this so much as well, that there's just so much that we don't know, or we're now learning, or we're now being reintroduced to, because how pregnancy, motherhood, getting pregnant, all that sort of stuff, how that's taught to us isn't necessarily what it is, if that makes sense. I think there's such education and authority and repetition on how not to get pregnant, and STDs and sex and the pros and cons of sex and porn and this and the other. There's so much conversation or information, rightly or wrongly, about that space. When we look at what sex is for and procreation and all that sides of it all, I feel like you kind of really have to delve deep and do the research there, depending on the kind of mum that you want to be, and I guess depending on how planned, quote unquote, planned things are. There's work that goes into that, and I think that part of it all is just kind of like, you'll get to it, or you're a woman, you'll figure it out. There's just that kind of,
like, it should just come naturally.
Yeah, and I'm gesturing as I'm speaking right now. So it's like, however we can make this easier for the next, I'm here for it. And even if this is just informing you don't want to have kids, but it's an interesting story for you, great, that's fine. But I just think there's just not enough, as you touched on, there isn't enough on there for this journey, and it's huge.
Relentless.
It's crazy.
It's relentless. It's for life.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Yes.
It flags up things within you that you perhaps weren't aware of before you. It's like it wakes you up. You know, the birth. It's the most sacred, transformational transition that you'll go through, rebirthing yourself, and as you birth your babies, and it does wake you up. For me, it's made me step out of a corporate job, the kind of constant fast-paced way of life, and consuming everything, you know. For me, motherhood really made, and it took a long time, but particularly with Beth, I think it made me slow down and live more intentionally, stop, you know, at the end of the day, I think we live in such a capitalist world that prize on the vulnerabilities of women and mothers, of all of us really, but I think predominantly women and mothers from a very young age. You know, I'm very mindful of that, raising two girls, two daughters, and it woke me up to that. You know, Rob and I have always tried to live quite a based less on things and more on experiences. That's how we've tried to, you know, I like a less cluttered life. I don't like stuff.
Fair.
Really.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's fine.
And we kind of took more of a drastic view on that particularly after Beth was born. Okay. You know, it's funny, and I have these chats a lot with some of my clients, like, you know, the sort of baby list that you form, you know, what's on there, a Moses basket, monitor, a cute baby outfit, sleep suits, whatever. but what's on there for the mother? Like, there's all this stuff that focuses on the baby that we don't really need. We don't need it. A lot of the stuff we never even used, you know. And it's wonderful that you get all these gorgeous gifts from people who mean so well and they're so excited, and it comes from a place of love. But ultimately, the thing, like, I remember my mother-in-law coming round with a bag of food to put in the freezer, and it was just that was so needed at that time. And yeah, I have these chats with my clients, like, what is on your baby list? Have you put, like, things for you, you know, food vouchers, maybe a voucher for a women's health physio review, you know, because, like, it takes so long, unfortunately, for the NHS at the moment, with women's health physio, and I felt I had to really fight for a referral to be seen, you know, by a physio after giving birth. Like, those things, think about like our postpartum journeys, things for your recovery, and it's just not talked about enough, and it would benefit us and the babies so much more if we put the well-being of mothers right at the heart of it all. But yeah, Rob and I often laugh about this, like the kind of romantic notion of having a baby and how that is, you know, put out there into our society from a very young age. Like, I do watch Chloe and Beth playing Mummies and Babies. And I think, like, oh, if only they knew. Bless their souls. Oh my god! But it's you know, the things that we see on TV, the movies, the Friends. Like, as Rachel has her baby, like glowing and wonderful and beautiful. You don't see the gore, and that it's messy. Birth is messy. Pregnancy is messy. You know, a lot of women come to me in their pregnancy, say, I feel disgusting, I can't move, I don't think I want my picture taken, but I'll regret it if I don't. And then they just feel so empowered in their bodies, celebrating their pregnant form, and they feel much more confident. And also, it's a beautiful memory to have of your pregnancy where you actually feel amazing for a change. Because we live in our sweats and we can barely roll out of bed towards the end.
That's so funny. I'm trying to think of how as I hit my face on the microphone, sorry guys. So as you're saying it's reminding me of just pregnancy, how I felt, the rest of it. I really enjoyed my pregnancy. I really enjoyed it. I was gonna say I had a lovely time. It was more, I think, changes to my body, like the newfound aches and pains, and what it meant for your stomach to extend and grow, and the shifts of things. That was interesting to process and feel, and I can't even believe my body could do this. So I think there was such a awe. A real awe of what it is that it's doing and can do, and what others done, and like, oh my gosh, my mom did this 5 times, and like, oh my, like I had such a newfound respect for my mom, for other women, and just whoever's carrying the kids, and just all that kinds of stuff. It kind of it opened my awareness, my thinking, and I didn't realize how much of it was closed, or how much I had assumed many things, or how much I hadn't thought about certain things. And I think, again, it just came down to the lack of understanding or lack of education on what it means to carry a child, and what it means for your body to change, and all that kinds of stuff. So one thing I have to say is that I guess I'm thankful for the time that we're in, where we can have these types of conversations or have access to these types of information more readily. I don't think it's out there enough, but I feel like it's improving. Well, I hope it's improving anyway. So yeah, like, I'm just thinking about the resources that I pulled into during this pregnancy. That's when I found out about hypnobirthing, and some things worked for me, some things didn't. But in that space was when I learnt so much more about birth and being pregnant and
your body
and what
it's
right,
capable of,
and what your rights are, what you can say, not say, and how much of that isn't really said in a public space or public forum. If you don't go looking for this information, you won't know you can advocate for the type of birth you want to have, the type of medications you want to have. No, you don't want to be induced.
They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know that you have the right to say no.
And it's okay that you say no. And I
follow a woman, I don't know if you saw it. I saw it last night just before I went to bed. But Samantha Gadsden Doula, I think she's called on Instagram. Yeah. And she was sharing the story, the feedback of a mother that she works with, who was, a very, very healthy standard pregnancy, and then she reached 40 weeks, and she was then seen by a different midwife, and the midwife said to her, okay, so we'll book you in for an induction at 40 plus 5. And she was like, well, you can, but I won't be there. She was like, oh, really taken aback by her answer. Well, okay, well, shall I book you an appointment to see the doctor? No, I'm not coming into the hospital. Okay, how about I book you in with a midwife instead, and they can try and break your waters? What? Like, no. I'm quite. What would you like then? Okay, I'd like an appointment with my midwife to come and review me as we progress in my pregnancy. Yeah. Okay, so would you like your midwife to do a stretch and sweep?
No, thank you.
Oh my God.
It was
you had to laugh, really. Yeah. Like, my goodness. Listen to the woman. Listen to the mother.
That's what she's saying.
Listen to her wishes.
If there's anything, in my humble opinion, if there's anything that's dangerous or unhealthy or problematic, have the conversations with the mums and figure out the plan for what needs to be done, and make sure mum's good, make sure baby's good. Yeah. The assumptiveness of everything else, not necessary. And the assumptiveness of everything else, that's where I really want mums to know that they can say no, or they can ask more questions, ask the why, so you can go away and think about it and make an informed plan for yourself and with your partner as well. I didn't want to have an induction. I've been saying that from the get-go. People may know the story already. At 37 weeks, I had the conversation of like, okay, so we're going to get you induced. When should we book it? And I'm in the space saying no. I'm being told why I need to. I say yes to the conversation to essentially end the conversation. And because at that time, the head of midwifery was like, look, you can book the appointment and you can cancel it if you know you don't want to use it and stuff. So I was like, we've been in there for I don't know how long it was. My partner didn't say anything because he knew what I wanted. I said yes to this. I've left the room and I'm with Max. I'm like, did I just get talked into something? He's like, well, yeah, because you didn't want to do this. You knew what your plan was. Yeah. And you said yes to something.
It's a great tool for them.
So then it was like, great. So then we spent the next however many days of trying to cancel. To which I was told, well, I got diagnosed with gestational diabetes way at the very end of my pregnancy. So, things about, well, your baby might be too big. Another time someone said your baby might be too small, or there might be this. And, oh, well, if you do this, your baby could die.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I'm having to sit there and look at this person and say, I'm making this decision. I'm sweating underneath my armpits like there's no tomorrow because I'm like, oh, I'm telling you no, but I'm standing by my no. But up until then, I knew that I was fine and I was healthy. I needed to watch how I was eating towards the end. My baby was fine and healthy. My partner was happy with everything that I was doing, and I had that support and that trust there. So we're good. No one's taking any unnecessary risks. But again, if I didn't know any better, or if I hadn't done any research, being told, oh, induction, I may have just taken that at face value as, okay, and that's part of the process. And off we go. But to understand what an induction is, no thank you. And also, I get that might be your choice, or that might be the option you must take, and that is all absolutely fine. But I think if you're as informed as you can, you're going to make the best choices for yourself and your health practitioner, your doctor, your midwife, whoever else. They're also going to, they will support it if that's what you're saying you're going to do. They'll give you the pushback that they need to, that's fine. And you can make your informed choices from there. But to be in a space where you're being told what you're going to do just because, and it didn't have to happen, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think
that's scary.
It is, isn't it? And I think as mothers in this journey of in your pregnancy and starting to think about as you enter the birthing services, that it's so important you do go out there and find that information. But also, like, find your local doulas, speak to your local birth keepers, birth workers, and if you can, invest in that support and that knowledge. It's what I love about them, particularly the women in my community that work in the birth keeper space, is how just vast their knowledge is on ancestral practices in physiological birth, and how strong their ability is to advocate on the wishes of the women that they work with. And you can meet the two. Some mothers that I have had the pleasure to work with, they have had midwives from the home birth team present with their doula, and it's united and it's very clear as to what the mother's wishes are. But it's that feeling of just at times, like you say, that grinding down, that coercion, that like you don't know what your body is capable of doing. Big babies. Beth was 11 pound, born at home, and a completely unassisted birth. And Chloe was 7 pound, and she was a more tricky birth. Like, it's not. I think there's so much around knowledge, because my body had done it once before, I think, and I was very aware of what my body was doing second time around. And that it's the more we empower and inform mothers of what they're about to embark upon when they start in the space of bringing their baby earthside, the more they're going to feel safe and aware of what those sensations are, what their body is doing. I do, it's that balance of, midwives are such an important valued part of our community and our services, and they do an amazing job, but ultimately it is a stretch service. It is a service that is very masculine based, medical model. There's less focus on the physiological elements of birth. And that's frightening. Like, I have two daughters. If they decide they want to go down that route of mothering, that's what that for me, like, working with women, the knowledge that I've gained from them is so amazing to hold, to then pass down to our daughters if they decide to embark on motherhood as well.
You've throughout this conversation, you've mentioned Mother Circle, you've mentioned birth keepers. Can you elaborate a little bit more on those?
So effectively, Jess Slender is a doula in our local community. So Jess and I have known each other for years, and Jess, she would describe herself as a doula and a birth keeper, a keeper of the birth space. So effectively, she would, if a woman found her in her pregnancy, they would, perhaps bring her into their birth village, if you like. So
I get that.
Some mothers will have their partner and a doula there, or two doulas even sometimes. I know Jess works very closely alongside another doula called Sarah, and they're amazing women, with such incredible knowledge of herbs, of natural remedies, of physiological birth practices, of taking it right, stripping it right back to how birth would have been, way back. And so Jess and I, we would often cross paths with our clients. So if she'd supported a woman in birth, quite often I was doing their newborn session, and we didn't realise often that we were both in, you know, that
In
woman's
the same
life.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then it's like that aftercare for that mother was really lacking. And often my clients would come back to me for just some advice or support, or like just somebody to talk to that understands and has gone through what they're going through. And with 2 children, with 2 small children, and seeing, like, I think my first year it was 53 families. Last year maybe 70 or 83, so, you know, around those figures. It was more and more tricky to, like, keep in touch with people, and I always wanted mothers to feel like there was an onward community when I had left, and I didn't want them to feel like they had to book in for another session, like whether it was a 6-month session or an annual whatever. and it just, I have been attending Jess's circles since Beth was born, so for 3 years. And I shared it a lot on my social media. I'd talk about Circle, I'd talk about, you know, what it has brought into my life, the sisterhood, like the enrichment of other women in my life for me and my family has just been incredible.
That's awesome.
And it was just another client of mine, this light bulb moment. I was chatting it over with her, like, and I want something for my clients to, you know, to keep in touch with them, to feel like they have that support around them. And she just said, well, why don't you and Jess do a circle for your clients and her clients and any other mothers that want to come? Like, you don't have to have had a session with me, you don't have to have worked with Jess. It was completely to give back to the mothers in our community, and in, you know, in the journey of mothering at any stage. So we hold it at my house. It's once a month, and we started it last year. We had to have a little break because of summer holidays, and then it's back up and running this year, and it is just I look forward to it every month. You know, to just welcome mothers in to that safe space where it is solely to nourish them, and not thinking about the baby or the baby's development or a baby class, or, you know, it's specifically for mothers to know that they have that space for them.
Amazing. That's cool that's something that's branched off, as you've said, 2 people working with women, with mothers around that space, and their paths have just crossed. It's all just aligned, and now you've created there's been like a further extension to what it is that you guys do. That's really, really cool. Has motherhood, I feel like the answer is yes for some reason. I was gonna ask you how has motherhood impacted your creativity, but I'm like,
well, motherhood, I mean, my reason why, maybe you think it possibly stems from the girls, but it stems from my own mother, like 100%. You know, she passed when I was 17 years old, like very unexpectedly. Was not an unwell woman. She just had a heart attack and died very suddenly, very unexpectedly. And it was a very, like, I don't know, when you go through such traumatic grief like that, you just survive for such a long time, and you just kind of have to carry on living, because I feel in our culture and in our society it's a very stiff upper lip to grief and loss. We don't really talk about it. You just kind of carry on. It's happened, you're gonna be okay, life goes on. And we, you know, had to move down from Scotland. We were originally from, like, the Hertfordshire area, but we'd moved up to Scotland with Mum, and 5 years later when she passed we had to move back down. So she was a woman who, you know, and it breaks my heart that I never knew her as the woman that I am now. I was 17 at the time, but for me, my memory is very much like she gave all she could to her children, but she had 4 children as a single mother, worked night shifts. You know, she had it really, really tough, and I can't even begin to imagine like what that would have been like for her. She was not comfortable having her pictures taken, and there are very, very few photos of us with her. And the very few that I do have are my most valued, precious, alongside the pictures of my children now. But yeah, it's like those photographs, they are her legacy. And for me, creatively, I think often in 2 ways, like the pictures that I would want of me and my mother as a child, you know, growing up, but also knowing my kind of life story that would have allowed more of that in my life if I'd had the pictures seeing me grow. You know, I don't have many, and I find it really, because she's not here. My dad's, bless him, like his memory is shocking. There's lots of gaps for me, and it's like I don't have this person in my life anymore that knew me better than anybody, had seen me, had birthed me into this world, knew my soul, you know, as the way a mother does. I don't have the pictures either. I don't have the photographs either. So, and what I would give to just have more photos of her, to be able to remember her as well in all her seasons of her life. So I hold that when I'm shooting, but also like as a mother to small children, what pictures do I want? What do I want my babies to see in our family photos? The love, the joy. Yes, it's chaos. Like maybe, we encompass it all, like storytelling, photography. We can encompass it all. Them jumping on the bed with a bluey cupcake as you're breastfeeding your newborn. You know, this was a session I did a couple of weeks ago. Ellie like adored her. She was just so similar to my girls. You know, family photo sessions, they are nothing short of chaos if there are children there. But it's intense and it's stressful sometimes and it's hard, but it's so worth it when you get those photos back, you know. And when I'm creating, I try and hold on to what is it that I would want documented for me as a mother, but also for a child that lost a mother, and for children. Like what is it that they want to see? They will want to see what they looked like at that time in their lives. What little things did they do? What were their characteristics? What was their, you know, Rosina, like, you know, her curls, her eyelashes, her smile, her joy of, you know, being with her dad, and the breastfeeding journey that you've had, and the little moments of simple everyday life, like romanticizing them, because that is your legacy. You are going to pass those albums down to your children one day, and that's what I hold on to, really.
We definitely love going through. She's now fully into reading and into books and into images, so we definitely go through, and I'm like, one thing I think about is, how am I going to keep this clean for like, the entirety of her life? Because right now we're good at like clean hands, but I'm like, I'm gonna miss her one day, and there's gonna be a smear of some kind on there. But she does love going through it, and it's very sweet watching her recognize, oh, that's her, and oh, that's her and daddy, or that's her and mummy, or what have you, in the photo album. So the
joy that our children see, the joy that our children feel when they see pictures of them with their parents, the love, the belonging, the safety, like it's all there. I was trying to get ready this morning, and the girls were trashing the studio, getting out all the like the clothes, fine art. No, they were getting out the fine art cotton prints, like, honey, it's me. you. They were just getting so, like, seriously, I couldn't believe it. They were just dragging it all out. I was like, yep.
But we have to go. Okay.
I know. Bless them.
I feel like I don't know if you must have this with your girls, but sometimes do you know what? I don't even like to call it misbehaving, but they're just doing stuff that, you know, maybe right now we shouldn't be doing. But it's just the sheer joy that they're having in that moment, to me, is so infectious. And the level of cuteness that they have.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like,
Roll
I
with it.
don't know how I'm going to am I meant to be disciplining you right now? It's just not going to happen, because it's so much fun watching you process that.
Inside. Like, I can't remember. I think it's Dr. Becky. Someone told me about her when I was really, really struggling with Chloe's expressions of anger and frustration towards Beth. And it's all valid. Like, it's emotions that she was feeling. Yeah. But the behaviours weren't safe, like giving her a good old punch and a good old whack and kick and like and I was really struggling with it, and I've shared it on my stories. You know, I just find it so important to be open and honest about our journey in mothering. And a client of mine messaged and said, you might find this helpful. It's Dr. Becky, I think her name is. And it was they're good inside, you know. All children are good inside.
They are indeed.
It doesn't make the behaviour any more tricky.
Very expressive, honestly expressive. Good inside and honestly
absolutely.
Expressive.
It's either emotions or needs. And it's something that Rob and I, sometimes we have to stop and check in on ourselves, because, you know, gosh, we're all guilty of just losing it. Like, they push you to your limits. And also it's the, like, triggers within you, perhaps from your childhood or from points in your life that, you know, they're there. The triggers that occur, it's there, just waiting to be touched. And then it all raises its head.
And they go,
Wah! Yeah, for me it's noise. Like, when the girls are so noisy, I find that really, really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I know why, because we were in a very noisy house as a child, and I struggled with that.
Okay.
The shouting and the arguing and stuff.
Okay.
You know, and I do think that, like, generationally, we are a generation of parents that are recognizing our own triggers. And I feel for my parents that was never really, like, as talked about as much, that the needs of the parents weren't met as much. You know, the dad went out to work, 12-hour days, whatever, home. The mother looked after the children on their own most of the time. And like, meeting the needs of parents just didn't really exist. And I think generationally as well. Generationally and generationally.
I love it.
It's we're kind of the first ones to be apologizing to our children or to be recognizing where we're getting things wrong. None of us are perfect, and I say this to Chloe all the time, like, Mummy's not perfect. Nope. I'm learning. Yeah. But I'm so sorry I just shouted. And I'm so sorry I just got cross. And I love you.
Yeah. It's what you said is very true of the time now, which is wonderful. It's also I do enjoy seeing, like, the memes or memes, guess we wouldn't call them, where everyone's like, look, we're really trying this gentle parenting thing and you're committed to it. But sometimes you're tested, and it's like it's really funny, like, watching. Obviously it's been turned into a skit, but just the levels in which you're doing it, then something will happen and you're like, I've really got to dig deep for this one.
I think as well, Rach, I don't know if you find this, and I shared this in Circle once. I find that there is so much out there now on social media about how to be a connected parent, a gentle parent, you know, and I used to feel so guilty.
Did you?
Yeah, when I had really difficult days with Chloe, and I knew I was doing stuff wrong, and I wasn't being the best parent I could be. Okay. And you know, I'd be riddled with guilt because I wasn't doing it the way, like, conscious parenting. There's a page called Conscious Parenting, and it's so in depth around what you how you should approach a situation. Okay. but sometimes it's just not always possible.
Yeah.
And you don't get the response that this post says you're going to get from
Yeah.
your child.
Yep.
And all children are different.
Very different, exactly.
Chloe's a very highly sensitive child, and that's just who she is. And sometimes I've sat with that and gone, you know, did I do anything wrong when she was a baby to make her this way?
Yeah.
But thinking back on it as a little one, she was always quite sensitive to noise, the blender going or Hoover, something like that. And I watch her walk on her tiptoes, and I think, oh, has she got? I think there's so much information out there now.
Yeah.
To some degree, it's too much. And we can you know, sometimes it sits heavy with us, constantly questioning, like, it's almost like you look for a reason for why your children are the way they are, or why we are the way we are as parents. And sometimes it's just saying, you know what, I'm just human. Like, there's so many elements to the way we live now that means my needs aren't met, or my nervous system is constantly heightened, or I don't get the chance to like meet my very, very basic needs in a way that they should be met. And that trickles down to our children. But ultimately what I try and hold on to now, where I'm at now, and it's only in hindsight, and I know I'll have so much more to come, but just I try and hold on to the fact that they both are my daughters, and our relationships are the most important thing in my life and their life, and treating them with respect and love, and just holding on to, you know, I don't ever remember a time that I was kind of made to feel that way as a small child by my parents. It was like I was a pain in the ass or a nuisance, or like your voice isn't valid. And it's the way Rob and I try and approach it now is like, the girls, they are an important part of our family. Their voices are important. And their wishes and their needs are important. And but it's the pressures, you know, trying to get out the door, it's those crook points that make it tricky. And your good intentions are compromised.
I haven't reached that stage yet with Zena. I think I'm now getting into that space, because now she's starting to talk, she's starting to walk, so her independence is now entered a new phase, a new space. So it'll be interesting to see what that new space would be like for me as a mom, and navigating that with her, because I can see already she's quite a strong-willed individual, which is awesome. So I want to make sure that I nurture that and give that space to grow without stifling it or making her feel bad or feel negative about it. So excuse me, I know that's the next sort of phase, I guess. So all things gentle parenting and conscious parenting, I think I can laugh at the things that are funny, whatever else. I try and take on board the things I'm like, oh, actually, no, I like how that was done, or the approach was done, or how the dialogue or conversation was had there. I'm trying to take things into like my toolkit to know that I can pull on it. Let me try and remember to use it, remember to pull on it. But that's what I'm doing at the moment. We'll see how it comes into practice, right? That's the truth of it all. But that's about it. And just even thinking about me as a kid, again, I was raised in London. I was raised in Ghana as well for a few years. I was baby number 3. So, and I love being the middle kid. I know people have very mixed feelings about being the middle child, but the things that people find difficult about it are the things that I tend to love. Because you're baby number 3, people never really knew where you were. Not really. But for me, that meant that I could go explore. I can be under the bed reading this, or under this table doing this. I can be in the room with adults talking, and they don't know that I'm there, and I'm listening, and I'm learning stuff that I probably shouldn't be learning at that time. So it gave me a great sense of freedom, of exploration, and it really pushed and fueled my curiosity. And I think for my mum, I could see the challenges that she had with me, because I think it's fair of me to say this. I think out of my siblings, being baby number 3, I think I was the first one to challenge or to ask why. And she may not see that why coming. And now I'm genuinely asking for a reason or to why we're doing what we're doing or asking these questions. And again, mum of 5, single mum. So you're not going to have the time to answer certain things or do certain things. So then it's her reacting to that. And sometimes they weren't always the most positive of reactions. And as an adult, with the hindsight, I can see how and why she did what she did, said what she said, handled certain things the way that she did. And we've been able to have this conversation, to talk about it to the best of her ability, explain what she needed to explain, and also not. Because again, culturally, my Ghanaian mum is not going to sit there and talk about, in some situations, not going to be here talking about feelings or the why of this and all the rest of it. Because that's not how she was raised. Didn't have the time. You knew your parents did the best that they could with what they could, and you kept it moving. And I don't even know if you even always thought your parents doing the best that they could. It just was. So I see how challenging it is for her with me asking certain questions now that are making her think or making her remember X, Y, and Z. Or even not even remembering, it was just done. And that's actually just the end of the answer. So I'm super keen to have her on this podcast at some point, just to see what her perspective was like. But there's just so much from my childhood and how we were raised and what we went through that I know I wouldn't want to do to my kids. And there's so much that I really want Zena to have and enjoy and explore, because I also had that. But it's definitely navigating that space and trying to pair that with gentle parenting and seeing how it kind of all goes together. So it's definitely I'm waving both my hands at the moment, but it's definitely going to be a weird amalgamation of just old and new, I suppose. But I'm aware that I've got the stuff to come. So as much as, like I said, I'm preparing, I don't know how. Like, am I really prepared? I mean, is it really gonna work? We won't know, but we'll see.
You can't ever prepare,
right?
Because your child will be your child.
Yeah, and she's got her own
different,
right, and her own views and her own feelings that she's gonna want to express.
But the wisdom and the knowledge from other mothers is just amazing. Like, it's such a tool to, be able to have those conversations so openly, without judgment, without any agenda whatsoever, but just to say, it's not all roses of newborn snuggliness and
it happens, but it's not everything. It's not all of it.
The sleepless nights are enough to to bring you back down to earth.
Oh yeah, that's a real phase. I wanted to ask you, do you have a vivid memory of birth? And it could be from both of your births or one.
For Chloe, I would say I'd been in, so I was planning to have her at home, and I got so swollen and I was so big that when my home birth midwife had arrived, she was a little concerned that I might have preeclampsia. So I was sent into the I was really reluctant to go, and sometimes now I do think, was that because she was short staffed, because she had 2 women birthing that night and she was flipping between me and another woman, and I think she felt I was possibly the least likely to birth at home because I was a first time mother. Because it was I should have probably said, well, I was only checked for preeclampsia like a couple of days ago and I didn't have it. And thinking back, maybe I should have stood my ground a little bit more. But I went in to be checked over just to be on the safe side. Whether it was coerced or not, I don't know. Whether it was it was clear, good professional intention, I don't know. But anyway, we went in and I was there for 3 hours, just laying on the bed being monitored on my side, trying to sleep because I'd been up all night labouring as well. And they were happy with everything. All was good, and they were about to send me home. And I just mentioned something to a midwife, and she said, "Oh, we should probably examine you." I'd been seen by the consultant, but he just chatted to me. And then when he examined me, he made an assumption that I was in early stages of labour because I wasn't screaming or like seemed to be in much pain. I mean, it was painful, like there's no doubt about that. But I think from what they were used to seeing, you'd kind of they just hadn't really seen many women hypnobirthing, you could call it. Yeah, absolutely. Or just birthing in a zone, like I was just in a zone really in my headspace. And he went to examine me with a tool where they stretch you out to check your dilation. And Rob said he just put it in and it wiggled around. So he just threw it down on the floor like, oh God, you're 10 centimeters. Yeah. He was so embarrassed. He was like, you can't go home. Well, this is what he said. You can't go home. I mean, I should have. Yeah. He was just like, your baby could come at any point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I then stood my ground and said, well, I'll only stay if you put me in a birth pool, which he was reluctant to do. But we got in the birth pool at the Lister. And they were amazing. They just left Rob and I to it. Pulled the curtains, and they were there if we needed them.
Nice.
But yeah, I think it was 2 hours later Chloe was born in the pool. My kind of biggest memory with that was like her head came out and then went straight back in again.
Oh yeah.
So that's very common apparently in birthing. But I think it's that they kind of dob a little bit. They kind of, but her head came out. And then she went, oh no, and then went back in.
I remember feeling Xena bobbing down the birth canal. Yeah. I feel like go down, come back up, down, come back up. Like, and that was phenomenal. So surreal to feel that. When her head came out, I didn't have the ring of fire with her head at all. She popped out. Oh, nice. Max was like, you just saw her head come out. And then it was like,
ring of fire.
She just looked around. And then it was like, to him, it was like, oh, it's almost like she didn't realize there was like another room that she'd come into. So she just looked around. And then it continued. So I felt a little sting when her shoulders shimmied out of me, but that was it. But I didn't have ring of fire.
Oh,
okay.
I felt it all with the girls. The sting, the burn. Yeah, and then with Beth, it was at home, so it was snowing, which was amazing. It was really, really lovely. And I remember we'd had breakfast, and I went upstairs and I said to Rob, I think I'm just going to take a few more pictures of my bump, because I was 10 days over my due date. I use that term lightly, but I was 10 days over, and I knew people were wanting to start trying to interfere. And I just thought, let's take a few last pictures. So Chloe was in there with me, and as Rob was we were taking the photos, my waters popped and just started trickling down my leg, and Chloe was like scooping it up off my leg. We've got pictures of it. And it was, we got the fire going, we had the birth pool in the kitchen.
Nice.
And it happened so quickly. Again, like my waters burst at like 9:30. I think my home birth midwife that I'd seen throughout my pregnancy, she arrived at like 11:30, checked to see how dilated I was, because I was saying I don't think I'm that far along. Like it was a real kind of different sensation to Chloe. With Chloe, her birth was long and it was intense from the word go, whereas with Beth it just gradually it was very gentle. And that, I think that's with Chloe, I did have a stretch and sweep again, because I went over and I was a little bit worried they were going to want to start to induce me, so I did have a stretch and sweep with Chloe, and it kicked things off that night, but perhaps we weren't ready, because it was intense. But with Beth I didn't, and my waters burst naturally. And it was a very gentle labour. The intensity cranked up within like the last 45 minutes of her being born. But when my midwife arrived 2 hours after my waters breaking, I was 9 centimetres. So, and then 45 minutes later she was born. And again, I felt her coming down. It was amazing. With her, I was on my knees, in a really lovely position of just feeling her there, like her head was born first, and it didn't go back in, thank God. She just sat there for a minute, kind of looked around.
Oh, what's this?
Yeah. And we've got photos of the birth, which is lovely. And then she was gushed out, and I lifted them both. That's, for me, I'd say, that moment when your skin touches their skin. Yeah. When you pull, however that happens, whether you pull them from the water or you assist yourself in cesarean or you lay them the first time on your chest, like that skin on the skin contact is just incredible. I'll never ever forget that feeling of touching them for the first time. It was amazing.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a good memory. I was like, oh yeah, I remember mine. I often ask what project. I find that mums start a project during pregnancy or when the baby comes. But you were doing photography, so I don't know if this was in any way linked as well. But I was gonna ask, was there a new project that you started, and how was it going? If you're still doing it.
I mean, I'd say the business was probably the biggest thing. I've always done albums for the girls, like of all our phone pictures. So we do our professional family photos. Yeah. We book a photographer each year, and I do those albums, and they're all up to date.
Cool.
But I used to do like the photos, print them all off, write on the back how old they were, the date, and I just haven't been able to keep up with it. Oh my God. I did the first year of Beth arriving and haven't done the last 2 years.
Oh, really?
And the guilt.
Oh, no.
And I'm trying to let go of that because I know they're there on my phone, but I just need to get them printed off. I just don't have the time and the...
I don't know what I want to do with the images. It is hard. That's something I'm like, I feel like I want to have more physical albums. I can't keep storing stuff on my phone all the time or in the cloud or whatever. And it's a nice to have. Have I made a start on it? No. It's just forever plotting around, floating around in my head. But yeah,
I think I'm just going to do, because I did start doing the really big old school albums like I used to have as a kid.
That's what I want.
But with the prospect of us possibly like not staying where we're living and moving and stuff, I just think, actually, maybe I'll do the print your pictures from a phone book, the small hardback, easier to lug around, like. And I don't have the time to write on the back of them, this is your year, that's that year, that's that year.
That happened. That's it. What has been, I don't know if this would be an easy one to comment on, but what has been your biggest love, biggest takeaway, and or biggest struggle, if you've had a struggle?
Oh God, biggest love,
takeaway and struggle.
Biggest love, I'd say, is just sleeping with them, like sleeping at any stage. Like I really wish with Chloe that I'd kind of embrace that more rather than try to not like sleep train or anything like that, but instigate. It's hard because when you're in that moment you just want that little bit of space back, that little bit of time back to yourself, because it is so intense, isn't it, around the clock. And there is a real focus on babies being in their cots at 6 months and don't breastfeed them to sleep, blah blah blah. But then when Beth came along, I just embraced it all in terms of co-sleeping, sleeping together, all together, and I loved it. But again, it drove me mad some nights. Like they're just clambering on me, and I've maybe breastfed all day, and I just was touched out. So it's a I think all of it is a love hate, isn't it? A love hate juggle. And again, breastfeeding, like I've loved that journey, but my God, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's sometimes made to look so natural and simple, and like they just pop on and your breast produces milk and job done, and that's just not the case at all.
I had an episode with a lactation consultant. She talked about things from her perspective and her work and all the rest of it, and throughout people have mentioned their journeys about breastfeeding, etc. It's true. I think that again it's the informational knowledge and the practical side of it all that just isn't really as available, I think. But yeah, it is a challenge because if it's something you've never done before, understanding what that means, the mechanics of it, the logistics of it, is a whole different thinking. And your baby's also trying to understand what it means exactly to feed and latch and all the rest of it. So it's such a two people coming together, not knowing what it is and trying to figure it out in the best way that they can. And I knew that it would be a challenge because I'd never done it before, and because of that I was like, okay, with how I learn, I'm gonna need to, okay, how do we do this? But the assumption was like, oh no, you'll be fine, you just put them on, make it like it's almost like you're stuffing a burger in their mouth, just open the mouth really wide, off you go. And it's like, no, that's not necessary for me, at least that's not necessarily the language that I needed, and that wasn't quite what it was for some people. It was a breeze. Some people really easy. I mean, they couldn't not produce milk. There's those stories. And it was only during this time that I even heard from a friend and another person where they were like, actually, they didn't produce any milk, which I didn't even know was a thing. So again, there's just so much more to be learnt, shared, and understood around breastfeeding. So
and know that it doesn't sit with us as the mother as a form of like failure. You know, that's what I think knowledge and stories enable us to do, is feel less alone and feel, you know, that there's a huge variety of journeys out there that all differ, and some have similarities and some have real you know, that they're so different from one to the other that it doesn't boil down to it was our fault, and you know, relinquishing that kind of guilt or sole responsibility or I for me, I have what motherhood has brought into my life so much since having the girls is that respect of mothers and sisterhood, like having a newfound respect for women in my life and valuing them so deeply, because when I was on the ground they were the ones that came and picked me up. They loved my children like their own, and I wouldn't be without them in my life. And particularly as a mother who mothers without a mother, like that's been so invaluable to me, and I so deeply appreciate those women in my life, whether it's my mother-in-law or my neighbor or my friend or women I sit in circle, my clients, like they're not my clients, they're my friends. My friends who, you know, who like become a part of my life, who support me and my children as well. Like I love that my business has allowed me to enrich our lives through the women that it's brought in to our lives.
That's awesome. Would that be a takeaway?
Yeah,
would you say? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
sure. It's literally, this is never, it's so much more than what I could have ever have imagined it was going to turn out like, the business.
That's awesome.
And as a photographer, like for some people there's this view that a photographer just nips in, takes some pictures, sends them, uploads them, job done. Like that was never what it was about for me.
I mean, hey, some people do, and
that's amazing.
Collect your coin. That's great. And then you just your process and experience is just completely different. So I mean, it's brilliant. You know, what you do really, really is, it's awesome, it's gorgeous, it's brilliant, and the level of connectedness in the experience I think is super important. So as you said, it's the heart of what you do and it just shines through.
Thank you.
I'm struggling because it's as simple as that, guys. Meh, that's what it is. But no, thank you so much for your time today. It really, really has meant a lot, and I've just learned so much more to who you are, what you do, how and why you do it, and I think you've just shared so many valuable little nuggets and gems. There's just clearly so much more that we can talk about. I keep saying, like, I feel like every time I talk to people, that's great though, and it's like there's more to have. So part 2 will definitely be happening at some point, for sure. So I'm already looking forward to that. No, I'm so glad you were able to come down. Thank you. loves, before we sign off, just a quick note to remind you that everything shared on this episode is based on personal research and personal experiences, lived experiences. I hope we were able to give you some food for thought, but please make sure you conduct your own research and speak to your healthcare professional if you have any questions or concerns. Okay, with love, catch you on the next one.